So I love the band name Ready the Prince. Is there a story behind that? It sounds like it's something epic. Like there's a battle or a war and it's like Ready the Prince. Like I don't know where that comes from.
Totally. I mean, yeah, like the story. So, me and Jordan at that time, we were huge Kings of Leon fans. So, I mean, I know that's where the Prince aspect comes from. Like, we wanted to use that element, um, like the royalty element that they kind of had in their name. We were trying to find a way to bring it into our name because they were just like our biggest influence at that point. And so we were just working on names, and then the it was a three-way phone call between me, Dan, and Jordan, where we actually came up with the name because Jordan and I had been talking, and we were like, okay, like the Ready Prince, like that's the name, that's the band name, the Ready Prince. And we're like, this is it. Like that there's a meaning there. Like we understand, like, okay, the Ready Prince. And we called Dan and we told him on the three-way call, we're like, what do you think about this name? And then he was just like, what about Ready the Prince instead? And then we were just like, that's it. It was like instant. We're like, yeah, that's the one. And this is after like a month of like brainstorming, going through dictionaries, like just trying to find this name, right? And so when he said it, credit to Daniel Prada, he said it, and we were just like, yeah, that's the name.
And I remember back in 2008 when Kings of Leon, so they put out their album Only by Night or Only by the Night. And
Yeah,
man, the 1-2 punch of the first two singles, Sex on Fire and You Somebody, were so undeniable. Like those two singles, if any band has one of those singles, that's like a career
yeah,
maker. And they had the two
yeah,
singles back to back, and they took over the world from those two
yeah,
singles moving forward. So I was a huge fan. And I think the opening song on that album is it Closer. It just has like
yeah.
the biggest drum sound, just incredible. That's where I became a fan. Do you remember at what point maybe it's a little later that you became a fan?
So my sister would be the reason I'm a Kings of Leon fan because she was a huge Kings of Leon fan, and I think she started listening to them like probably around that time, like because that was when like Much Music was still around. So, and she was listening to like the radio a lot, like listening to like 102.1 The Edge here in Toronto at that point, and so she was listening to Kings of Leon, but then she got into their early stuff, and that's kind of where she was like, you got to listen to their early stuff too. And so that's kind of how I was introduced. Like, Only by the Night was the record that like she heard, but then it was all the early stuff that really I fell in love with. Um,
It's a little more
and
indie sounding, right? The early stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, their early stuff is so different from Only by the Night. And it was just like that raw songwriting, that emotion. Like they're just like an incredible band. And yeah, like I love all their early records. And I had no idea, but Jordan was already listening to them all throughout high school. So Jordan, I think actually like more so at the time those records were coming out, he was kind of in tune with those records, or maybe a little later because he is younger. But like I will give Jordan credit. He is like this with all artists. Like he always discovers artists before they're actually like mainstream. Like he's just like that. Like he always kind of sees that in the artist. So he was already knowing about Kings of Leon before they even mainstream, listening to the early stuff. So
He should be an A&R guy if he has that ear to
oh
discover
yeah,
music. Yeah.
he's got incredible ear and taste in music. Like it's really really cool. He's introduced me to so many artists.